Popsicle. I'm you from the future. You gotta get in.
What? Oh my gosh. And I'm guessing by what you're wearing, you're from like 1,000 years in the future.
What? No, I'm you from like 2 weeks in the future. You just like to wear stuff like this.
Oh, true.
Come on, let's go.
All right, you're making me say it. Let's go back to the future. Hello. Hello. Party people. What up, party people? It's your boy, your futuristic fiance, MC Popsicle! Oh, thank you. Thank you. And today, we're talking about some of my absolute favorite movies, Back to the Future. When I first saw them when I was a kid, it changed everything for me. It made me want to become an actor. It made me want to go into filmmaking. Just really shook my life up. And today, we're talking to George McFly himself, Jeffrey Wiseman. I am so excited about this interview. We have some never before seen videos, pictures, all kinds of great stuff from Back to the Future history. So check it out right now. Hello, Mr. Jeffrey, how you doing?
I'm good. I'll see you later. Did you miss me?
Yeah, I did.
I didn't get
you doing today?
I'm doing okay. It's a kind of a dreary, wintry day, which is good. You know, it's good to have those kind of days to break up the bright, beautiful days, like we're having so many in this pandemic.
I like the cold because in New Orleans we get like 3 cold days a year, so I get to wear all my hoodies and stuff. But so normally we start off by asking, what is your favorite movie that you are not in? Like of all time.
Oh, wow. Oh, great. Yeah. Next question. No, my favorite movie that I'm not in, that I was up for? No, let's see. Gosh, of all time. There's so many. I like most of the Thin Man movies. I like the classics, from Wizard of Oz to 2001: A Space Odyssey. I love a lot of movies, and it's really hard to pin down what's a favorite. Young Frankenstein. I don't know. Shoot. Let me get back to you on that.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, Wizard of Oz is very cool. Like the ingenuity that they had to have to do all those effects and stuff was just mind-blowing.
Yeah, when you see the picture of the little car driving around far off in the background with the sheet or whatever they used to make the tornadoes, like that's how they did that effect with a little car driving on the far end of the soundstage.
I didn't know about that.
Oh yeah.
The way they did the tornado is they put a stocking like on a fan, like took the blades off and turned it on and spun it. I thought that was cool. And the horse, they dyed the horses when it was a horse of a different color. They would use Jell-O. They painted it with Jell-O mix.
I hope it didn't kill the horses.
They weren't too worried about that type of stuff back then. They were like, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, they had little people craziness on that set.
I heard a weird thing about one of them like killed themselves, or they thought you could see that in the background, but it was actually like a crane or something. When they got HD, you could actually see it was just like a bird. But that was like one of the...
There is the one shot of a crew member hiding behind a tree real quick in the Witch's Wood.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
Oh, look it up. Yeah, that one's not an urban legend. That's I think you probably find it on YouTube or something where, someone probably puts a circle around the guy ducking real quick behind the tree.
Wow, that's funny.
Oh, he just kind of walks. He knows he shouldn't probably bring a lot of attention to himself like a pro. Oh, it's a take. I'm just going to saunter over here behind the tree.
That's funny. That's really funny.
It's fun to tell people. Example on Pale Rider, a Western I did with Clint Eastwood back in the early or mid 80s. There's a lot of things like that in continuity things. Example in the scene where my character's daddy gets shot from head to toe. It took us 3 days to shoot that, and on the different days there was a blizzard on one day, sunny on another day, and overcast with no snow on the last day, where we had to bring in the oil-based snow, and the wind picks up the snow in giant clumps and blows it. It's funny. And the cuts are so quick you can't tell. I mean, you can tell that where the actor playing my brother and I are screaming and crying from the mercantile. We're in a blizzard. When it cuts back to Daddy being shot, he's in sunshine. It's pretty cool.
That's
pretty
funny.
The editor goes, the editor do it beautifully.
I was reading about you, and I saw something that said you were in Max Headroom. What were you in Max Headroom?
Just a little support role. The Rakers episode in the control office. Jeffrey Tambor plays my boss, and we control Max. We're staying in communication with him, and sort of like the George Burns of the Burns and Allen show, just watching things on TV. Oh, is that what's going on? Very interesting. It's like, okay. And I have a credit on IMDb for a second episode of Max Headroom, and I don't know why I have that, because I only did one episode.
Huh. That's interesting.
But it was really cool, though. The actor Jeffrey Tambor and the line producer of that show both went to the same university that I did, and we all had the same. We discovered acting coach or professor in drama, and he had a big voice, and we all started doing our impression of him, which held up shooting for a little bit, because we're all making fun of Mr. Tyrrell and saying, "Oh yes, you're doing a fine job. Come out for a drink after rehearsal." And people are standing around watching the three of us doing this odd voice and holding up the shoot after lunch. That's my memory from Max Headroom.
That's funny. I love Jeffrey Tambor. He's a great actor.
He's crazy.
Did you ever see Arrested Development?
A little bit, yeah.
I love that show. He's really good in that. That's funny. And I love Max Headroom. He was a little bit before my time, but I found about a bunch of his videos and stuff online, and I was like, that is the coolest character. I just love that guy. He's so cool. And you're in Twilight Zone. That's really
in the
cool.
movie, yeah. The film I thought was dead in the water after the accident on John Landis's shoot, where Vic Morrow and the kids were killed. And about 3 months later, my agent called me up and said, they want to see you over at Warner Brothers for Twilight Zone movie. And I was like, they're not going to finish that. And she said that Spielberg had decided they got enough of that episode in the bag, in the can, and that he had everything lined up for Joe Dante and his and George Miller's episodes, that they were going to continue with it. And I was like, I'm auditioning for George Miller. And I was a big fan of Mad Max and Road Warrior. And this was his first Hollywood shoot. So I went in, and we got along great. And I got to play one of the passengers. My place on the airplane, it's the remake of The Nightmare at 20,000 Feet.
Mm-hmm.
And where they had me sitting was right across from Lithgow and back one. And so a lot of the time the camera and crew needed to be where I was sitting. So I'd go hang out in the back of the airplane fuselage. And I remember hanging with a guy named Spaz Attack. He had a big giant red mohawk. He ended up being a pretty popular choreographer for Tony Basil, I think, and others. But he was raving. He was kind of excited because he had just finished shooting a fight scene with Harrison Ford on a film yet to come out called Blade Runner at the time.
Ooh.
And his, I remember going to look for Spaz all through Blade Runner, and his fight got cut. But then another extra who was in the back there, Jack Burrell, is Milton Berle's brother. I love getting these, stories from shoots that I'm on, projects I'm on. And Jack told me that his brother Milton got kidnapped by Al Capone.
Wow.
He was coming to Chicago. Capone wanted Milton to play his club, and Milton said, "No, I got this other engagement, another club." And Capone's guys kidnapped him at gunpoint at the airport when he showed up in Chicago. How they knew he was arriving? Well, probably staked him out. Anyway, so that's kind of the thrill for me being on different movie sets is getting to know stories from other participants and teammates, and then watching the creative process, being up close and personal, watching Clint Eastwood or Michael J. Fox or Michael Keaton, John Lithgow work has enriched me really well, as both for my own acting and then also when I teach. So I love that sort of thing.
Right. Yeah. For people that don't know, it was a helicopter crash, wasn't it? That during Twilight Zone that messed everything up.
Yeah, they were working in the wee hours of the morning, and there were kids who shouldn't have been on set were there. The Vietnamese refugees or whatever that Vic Morrow's character was getting, his character's redeeming himself or something, and he's trying to save these kids, and they're in this swamp or whatever, and Landis wanted the helicopter lower or whatever, and fireworks hit the propeller of the copter, and it came down and decapitated everyone.
That's so sad.
That's nuts.
What a way to go. That's awful.
Oh yeah, horrible tragedy. Horrible, and it should have never happened.
That's sad. Well, get out of that. But so how did you get into acting in the first place? Was that your plan, or were you just kind of fall into it, or what?
I don't really remember not wanting to be an actor. I remember maybe periods of my being, when I was real little, wanting to maybe be a fireman or a astronaut or something. But I though remember quite honestly all the time wanting to be an actor. And my parents didn't want me to be an actor. They refused to let me get an agent when I was a kid. And, your school comes first, blah, blah. And they knew a lot of people in the industry, and they saw what a hard life it was. And it was kind of frustrating for me, but I did shows in school, and then community theater. They let me do that, and other projects, films with my buddies. And then out of high school, they weren't going to tell me what to do. So started getting my foot on some sets by doing bits and large crowd scenes in films like The Rose and FM, I Want to Hold Your Hand, and got brainwashed by Alice Cooper in Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
Cool.
Yeah, it was fun hanging out with the Bee Gees.
Wow.
I'm 18 years old at 7:30 in the morning, and I'm just like, is that on the set at 7:30 in the morning? And I follow my nose, takes me over to Barry Gibb. I said, "You're smoking at 7:30." So I did that back in junior high. What's the matter? And he said, "Sure, here, you want some?" I went, "Sure." And there's tobacco in this. He goes, "Yeah, that's how we like it over in the UK." I was like, okay. And then Robin Gibb comes over and congratulates, or no, it says, our record, I was like, Children of the World, News of the World, whatever it was, had just reached #1 on the Billboard charts. And so I was the first to congratulate them both. And, nice memories.
That's very neat. That's so cool. So Back to the Future 2 is my favorite movie ever. And I'm actually an actor, and that is the movie that made me want to be an actor. When I was a little kid, I saw that and I was like, you can't do anything funner than be in a movie like this. This seems so fun, so cool, and that's
It's a
actually
wild ride. It's
It is.
a fun wild ride. I remember the first time I saw it, I was in New York to ride in the Macy's parade. So I remember Elizabeth Shue and I both were in New York, so we got to go see it in theaters there. And I was confused. The pace was so quick and things were happening right and left so fast. I was like, wow, this is really frenetic. I was excited though. It was the first time I got to see my name on a shared title card, just my name at the front of the film. I had a shared title card on Pale Rider.
Wow. What a
And
movie.
so that was kind of thrilling. And though it was awkward for me, that whole situation there, because they were trying to keep me a secret.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the use of Crispin's likeness in my makeups, which I didn't know they didn't have the rights to. It was kind of frustrating for me to not be privy to their machinations. But I see how they were also cornered by him holding them kind of ransom. You know, it was a kind of a screwed up situation. So I didn't really benefit like I think I should have back then when the film came out. I wasn't. Every time I tried to promote myself or whatever, the gigs would mysteriously dissolve and disappear. Little did I know people were pulling the strings back at Universal. So it was kind of screwed up. But I have since been, discovered by the fans. And even though there's a lot of, I don't want to say OCD, but a lot of Crispin fans who hate my guts or whatever, I usually tell them, I worked with Crispin in '83 before he got the first film and thought he was a wonderful actor and got his number and tried to stay in touch. And when I learned he wasn't coming back, I thought he had another film that he couldn't get out of his contract or schedule or what have you. And it probably broke his heart. But, I called him up and said, I'll do a great job. And, I can't imagine how they're going to do it without him, but they did. And it was a thrill for me to work on the project. It was really great rubbing elbows, working with Tom Wilson and Leah and Mike. And it just was a very exciting set to be on.
I bet. Carl Sagan said that movie was the most realistic example of time travel, at least at the time it had come out. I read that today. I thought that was interesting.
Wow.
So that's
thanks, Carl.
What did you do for your audition for the movie?
It wasn't a traditional audition in that I had an agent for lookalike work that I was doing. I at the time was playing different characters: Stanley Laurel of Laurel and Hardy,
mm-hmm.
Charlie Chaplin, Groucho Marx at Universal Studios Tour and various other venues and events. And that agent called me up and asked if I knew who Crispin was. I said, yeah, sure. He asked if I was the same height or weight. I said, no, I think he's taller. I think he's heavier. But what's going on? And he explained to me that they were looking for a photo double stand-in for him for a project that he couldn't name. And I was like, the sequel to Back to the Future? He said, I can't say. I said, well, get me in there. I needed to earn my medical through the Screen Actors Guild at the time because my ex-wife was pregnant with our second kid. And went in and I met with the ADs and that went well. And I guess they spoke with the director. The next call I got was to go audition for Judy Taylor Fenton Feinberg casting. And I read the scene where Marty and George are hanging the laundry in the backyard from the first film.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that went well. And then they started sending me to makeup prosthetic fittings and body cast special effects fittings. And at this point, I was figuring because of the makeup effects and everything that they needed to have George in two places at the same time. That's what was going on in my mind. No one really was telling me anything about Crispin not returning until it was kind of in the 11th hour. I knew that I had a screen test in the young George makeup where Zemeckis turned to Dean Cundy, the cinematographer, and said, "What do you think, Dean?" And Dean said, "I think we got Crispin without the trouble." At that point, a red light went off and I was like, what does that mean? You got Crispin without the trouble. Is Crispin not coming back? And sure enough, my makeup designer, Ken Chase, told me that Crispin was out and that I was going to be George. And I was like, that's impossible. And I tried to prep my agents for that information. And they said, yeah, let's let them call. And sure enough, at the 11th hour on a Friday night at 6 p.m., the casting called my agent and offered me the role. And it was like the last minute kind of thing where they're being cornered into accepting an offer for me. And then Monday morning, having to be on set, ready to go. And so for every call that I needed to be, say, ready by 8:30 or 9 o'clock in the morning, I'd have to be in the makeup chair by 4 a.m.
Ooh.
Because it took 4 hours to apply the makeups and wig, and another hour at the end of the shoot day to take it off. And the first things we shot were the Enchantment Under the Sea dance, which I have some fun footage of. I don't know if you want to see that stuff.
I would love to.
Transferring MC Popsicle to viewing room.
So it opens up on getting the old George makeup on. Like I said, it took a day to get it applied. Sonny Berman, who just passed away a year or so ago, is doing the application with a gal named Nancy Vasta. Sonny Berman's of the Berman Brothers fame. Behind, at the other chair where Leah is getting made up, is Mike Mills and Kenny Mayers Jr. These are all like legendary makeup people. Mike Mills was the foreman on Beetlejuice. Kenny's very famous. Marvin Westmore was on the team. Really top-notch makeup artists.
Wow. Yeah, it looked good. It looked really good. I loved the makeup in those movies. Very cool. How long did it take for you to get into it every day?
4 hours.
Ooh, that's rough.
Sometimes if we had to rush, if we were running behind or something, we could do it in 3.5. But generally, it was 4 hours. They'd work on me. Example, glue me down, get my pieces on, and then after a couple hours, let me take a break to stretch or maybe have breakfast, depending on what time of the day it was. There I am, unpainted and without the wig yet.
Whoa.
Zemeckis, when he was giving the action, he said Leah. Before that, he had been saying Crispin.
Oh no!
And I came up to him. I said, "Bob, why are you calling me Crispin?" Anyway, so he switched to saying Leah for action, and then you heard him also say Kevin for the second action, and Kevin was Michael J. Fox's photo. So in that case, he was crawling across the catwalk above the stage.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
While Michael was on stage playing the guitar, or vice versa. Mike had his photo double as stand-in. Bobby, Kevin was his photo double, and his stunt double, Charlie. I've got a picture somewhere of the four of them together.
Wow, that's really cool.
So not only 4 hours a day to apply the makeup, but it took another hour to get out of the makeup at the end of the day. This is part of the pizza in the 2015 scene. A lot of it was cut. And I'll explain how I got claustrophobic.
Can't hydrate a pizza. No, I'm sorry, I missed that whole thing.
Nice. We threw a little party.
Now, Mom, before we throw any more parties for Uncle Joey, let's wait to see if this is still on.
Will you rotate your axis? It's not good for your digestion to eat while you're inverted.
Okay, dear. 4, You come on. Okay.
So you see what happened here was I was put into a body cast to do this effect of the spinning, and the body cast had a pipe at the back, so there was a hole in the costume. The costume went over the body cast. The pipe went through the set, and there was a wheel on the other side. So when they heard the cue when I said, "Okay, dear, 4," they started spinning me. So I spin and do my tribute to Crispin's laugh.
No,
and
I don't.
And it didn't work because Leah Rain serves the pizza on the floor, but I am spinning for pizza, so it should have been on the table, and the table wasn't really designed to have where George would be sitting would be where the camera is, I suppose. So
why did they have a body cast? Like, why did they do that?
For the special effect for spinning. That spin that you saw me do. So I'm in the body cast. They put the costume on over it. The pole's coming out of the back with a wheel on it, so the teamster on the other side of the set can spin it. And one of the takes where they put me in the body cast and then they literally put the costume on and then spun me upside down. And one of the first takes of it, I hadn't caught my breath. And so all my weight was on my chest and I couldn't breathe. So I had this claustrophobic big thing go on, and I started ripping. Zemeckis had already said action, and I had started ripping the costume off because I couldn't breathe. I couldn't catch my breath. And he was like, Jeffrey, what's wrong? And I said, get me out of here. And I had one of these, not blackout, but one of those claustrophobic experiences that dude. And he let me walk it off. I just walked for about 3 minutes and then came back and was able to get back in it and do it again. So when I first came to Hollywood kind of as a hot item, mainly because of this man right here, this director, Martin Brest, who directed Beverly Hills Cop and Sin of a Woman, among other great films. Was the original director on a film that was called The Genius that later became War Games. And he wanted me to screen test for it, and I did with Ali Sheedy. The same day I tested, they looked at Eric Stoltz and Dana Carvey, Brian Backer, John Stockwell, a lot of good actors. Turn that down. There's on Twilight Zone movie. I'm with the big there with Donna Dixon. On Johnny Dangerous, Michael Keaton. This is from Pale Rider with Clint Eastwood.
Wow.
And then being Screech's guru on Saved by the Bell, the high geek. Then I worked with Dick Van Dyke on Murder, She Wrote. I played Stan Laurel at Universal Studios for 15 years and Charlie Chaplin and Groucho Marx. And I have a Three Stooges team. Here we are giving Iggy Pop his 60th birthday cake.
I love Iggy Pop.
With Larry Bud Melman and lots of independent film. And as Mark Twain.
Love it. Love Mark
Doing
Twain.
Commedia dell'arte here. Renaissance Fool. Nobody's Laughing is a great film where I play a clown. I played Igor in the musical Young Frankenstein, 11 years as the hobo on the Polar Express. Various other independent films. And here's some of the Back to the Future shots.
Wow. I feel like I'm getting like treasure right now. This is so cool.
There was that buddy cast. Am I hanging? On part 3. And then we do reunions at different fan cons and DeLorean owner shows. And there you go.
That was so crazy. As a huge Back to the Future fan, this has completely blown my mind. Thank you so much for showing us that. Hold on one second. We got to get back to the interview room, okay?
Thank you. So you got the part. You're shooting. What was your experience like shooting on the movie?
It was a lot of hard work. It was exciting. Like I mentioned, being in the heart of a creative process with great talent, from Zemeckis to Fox, to Harry Waters Jr. on the stage, or with Flea hanging, with just great talents, is always a thrill for me. And I love both the technical behind the set. We had this Panavision camera run by this program, early computer program, 1988, designed by a guy named Tondro, that actually spliced the film inside the camera. So Michael played the 3 different roles for dinner, for pizza, which was at the time pretty cutting edge. Because of the nature of the design, we had to choreograph, block everything very precisely and never deter from those precise movements once they were marked. And it was pretty fascinating, very, very fun to see the cutting edge technology for the special effects, to be with such top-notch crew and effects guys from ILM. Really, across the board, everyone worked very hard, everyone very nice. Lots of really wonderful people on the makeup team. Mike Mills, who was, I guess, my main handler with Nancy Vasta. Mike was the foreman on Beetlejuice, and legends like Marvin Westmore from the Westmore family, Kenny Myers, and Zoltan and his wife, who got the Academy Award for Mask, came in to help sometimes, and Sonny Berman of the Berman Brothers. Really fantastic artists, the designers, from wigs to costumes. Joanna, who did our costumes, she won the Academy Award for Lincoln.
Wow.
Really wonderful, hardworking pros, and all very nice. It was, once again, though, awkward, when I showed up on set, first day of shooting in the recreation of the Enchantment Under the Sea dance, in the young George makeup. I was often referred to as Crispin, or I remember Mike Fox seeing me for the first time saying, "Oh, Crispin ain't gonna like this," and I was like, "Oh shit, what is going on here?" And I kind of kicked myself for not putting my foot down at that time, right then, and to make sure that they had permission for my makeups. I had, as I mentioned, played Stan Laurel and Groucho Marx and Charlie Chaplin at Universal, and they paid for the rights for me to play those characters, and thus I figured Universal had covered securing the rights with Crispin. But after all that has come out in the last 30 plus years, Crispin wasn't going to give them the rights.
Wow.
So they were kind of stuck between a rock and the hard place. And then when it came out that he didn't get a fair shake out of it, and I was, friendly with him, I had no problem speaking with him and his lawyer. And I think with my photos and stories, that they were able to have that out of court settlement for $750,000 that he got. And why he still complains is kind of, I think, embarrassing for him.
Yeah.
I'm embarrassed for him. I think he should let it go. He got, I'm sure his agent took lawyer took half the money, but he got his settlement and was happy with it. Apparently not. And Bob Gale let it go either. So it's this butting of heads that should be long over, and they should come together, I think, for the fans or Michael's charity.
I agree, because you don't see him in anything having to do with Back to the Future, and that's a shame.
No, he will autograph from time to time posters or video boxes or ephemera.
Yeah. It's interesting though, because you inadvertently became a huge part of cinematic law history by doing this, because that now in every movie it says, you know, at the bottom of the screen, like the likenesses and such are owned by this company, stuff like that. So I thought that was very interesting, because I read about this case, and it's strange that had not been tackled before that point, you know? You would have thought that they would have figured that out a long time ago.
Yeah, well, with the advent of those capabilities, with trying to remember what commercial it was that they'd resurrected Fred Astaire, I think, or, you know, they would bring dead celebrities back to life to do product, either adverts or promotions, what have you. And often those estates were either owned by the families or had been sold. For example, Marilyn Monroe's estate and her likeness has been sold several times. Mm-hmm. And she still earns millions of dollars every year. You would think that those laws would have been actualized by the Screen Actors Guild to protect either the estates or the actors. So yeah, it's nice to have been a catalyst in creating a law that will hopefully remain in effect and protect those who, you know, don't have a lot of power to go after the big studios when they do stuff like this. And it has proven beneficial, you know, having to recreate Carrie Fisher or other actors after they've died when they were hoped to have been in a film. It's great that, you know, their legacy continues. It's kind of bizarre, very strange to see, you know, a dead R&B star up there dancing in a hologram, or
right.
You know, it's weird, but at the same time, if the family can benefit and make some money, and the fans can thrill in this imaginary world, it's pretty fascinating. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, it is
Wild and wonderful, baby.
Yeah. So, were you actually upside down in Back to the Future 2, in the part where you're when your back is hurt? Yeah.
Yeah, it's my action figure.
That's cool.
An Uber fan, Brad Fife, made this for me. My only action figure, really. This action figure doesn't really look like me or Crispin.
Yeah, that doesn't look like anyone. That's the one I just bought.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I bought that one, and I got the A Match Made in Space book. They have a hardcover, and I got that too. I was looking and seeing what kind of cool merch.
Get Crispin to sign your action figure, and then I'll sign it, and you'll be one of the 2 people in the world that'll have both of our signatures on it.
Yeah.
I only really last year heard the true story of why George was hanging upside down. There's a lot of, I think, urban legend, maybe partial truth, in that they wanted to obscure the actor, that maybe it wasn't Crispin. But to kind of check that, I went back and looked at my Paradox script a few months ago, in fact, and there's about 7 or 8 rewrites of those scenes in the kitchen of 2015 for Pizza.
Mm-hmm.
In some versions, in one version, Marty's in the ortholev hanging upside down. They had apparently commissioned the design and the build of the ortholev to have Crispin in it. I believe the Bobs, you know, they didn't know that Crispin wasn't coming back yet when they wrote it. So it wasn't to obscure the fact that it was a different actor. That, I think, has been manipulated over the years. But originally, Crispin would overshoot or undershoot his marks for camera. We all have marks laid during rehearsal for camera focus that we need to hit.
Right.
And Crispin wouldn't always hit them. So they said, well, if we have him on a track, we hang him upside down for some reason, we can stop him when we need to for camera.
That's quite a long way to go for that. But
I think so too. And also, I know during the shoot, I had one crew member come over and said, all this torture was meant for Crispin. I was like, great. And another regret I have is that I didn't negotiate stunt pay for hanging upside down. So, one week in particular, it took over 2 weeks to shoot from outside or Dad's Little Pumpkin, which was a line I improvised, to get all the way through to shooting rotating my axis for pizza, which is in the cut bonus material. Some of those days, I remember one week I had a 19-hour, a 21-hour, and a 26-hour long day.
wow.
And often less than 8 hours to get back into the makeup chair,
Ooh,
which is
that's so
a very
rough.
short turnaround. Yeah.
That's crazy. How often were you upside down? Like, how long were you upside down for?
If I was in the scene, the whole day, they didn't like getting me down. Zemeckis thought it took too much time, so he had the guys from ILM build a plank on a ladder, which I have in my slideshow that I'd show you if I could share my screen. We'll figure that out. So they'd say, Jeffrey, do a sit up, and I'd do a sit up, and they'd slide the plank ladder under me, and I'd lie back, and everyone would go off for a quick coffee. I'd be on the set all alone, twiddling my thumbs.
That's very dangerous to be upside down for a super long time. I actually read about
Now
that.
you tell me.
That'll kill you. Yeah.
Oh, great. I guess.
I'm glad you made it, because if all the blood from your stomach goes into your head and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm glad you made it through. I don't think convenience is a good reason to leave someone suspended upside down.
Yeah, are you telling me that people will die from their inversion boots? Inversion boots have been around for years. I haven't heard of anyone dying from them.
Depending on how long. If it's a super long time, they would. But yeah, that's funny. That's really funny. And what was it like working with Michael J. Fox?
It was, like I mentioned, it was really great to be up close and watch his technique. As an acting coach, I'll refer to Mike as one of the few actors I've ever seen who was not directing, who called cut. It's like one of the big cardinal rules. You never call cut or never stop acting until the director calls cut. Even though the dialogue may have ended or whatever, you just keep going, stay in the moment, because there's gold to be mined. And Mike was doing this one take. I'm not sure if it was outside the gym. I know he was running into the shot or something like this, and he said, cut. No, I didn't even believe that myself, which was really remarkable to hear him say that. And Zemeckis didn't have a problem with it. Other directors would have probably said, what are you doing? Cut. This is my picture. I'm in control. Mike is, such a pro. He's developed this sixth eye, the sixth sense of a director's feel. What he knows whether or not if his delivery is truthful. I think from his years honing his comedy muscle, his craft, doing sitcom work, he really has this incredibly solid technique. And he's a nice guy. He's very vivacious, or I don't want to say frisky. He's just very, ready to take on anything, which is really lovely. I remember we had just wrapped, I think, that 26-hour long day, and I was driving to get home, and Mike's limo pulled up next to me, and he was hanging out the window screaming at me. Just come on, just messing around because it was, 7 a.m. or something, and we were all tired and punchy. I remember at the end of the first week of work with him, even though he was concerned about my makeup and stuff, he invited me over to his and we had a beer and we're telling stories. And great guy, he's very nice. So I hadn't seen him for many years. Our first cast reunion was at the Hollywood Show in 2008. And Mike, who wasn't scheduled to be there, happened to be on a book tour and in town in LA at the time, and dropped in on the Sunday unannounced.
Cool.
And Chris and Leah, Francis and Mark McClure and Claudia Wells, James Tolkien and myself, we all got to spend a few minutes. No, I don't think James was there. But we got to spend about 20 minutes with Mike right after he arrived, just alone, all of us. And I think it was the first time most of us had seen Mike with the effects of the Parkinson's on him. And it was heartbreaking. It was so hard to see such a great guy afflicted, where he was compelled to move. His body, he really wasn't in control. He had, I think the pain caused him to move or do various twitches and stuff. And so that was very hard for us. But then he still, though, was warm and feisty. As soon as we got back in after this brief meeting where he signed a few posters, we all had been working, so we said, okay, we're going to go to lunch, and we left Mike with 500 screaming fans, and he looked at us like, hey! It was very funny. So he, even though the Parkinson's has, really dictated a lot in his life since his diagnosis on how he can live, he hasn't lost his big heart and big personality and his generosity with his love of his fellow craftspeople, and what he's done, of course, with his foundation, upwards of $1 billion he's raised.
Wow.
The foundation has raised to find a cure. So it's wonderful, and I try to support when I can. In the anniversary year of 2015, I put together a Back to the Future cruise to end Parkinson's, and I didn't get, because it was my first time producing a cruise, I didn't get the signups that I was hoping. I only got like 50 fans who came on it, but I was still able to raise over 10 grand, and that those 50 people had the time of their life on this 7-day cruise in the Caribbean. And I put together a band for that called Mr. Fusion. I had Harry Waters Jr., who played Marvin Berry who was our lead singer, Don Fullilove, Mayor Goldie Wilson on bass. I played guitar, and Mark McClure, who played Dave McFly, on drums.
Wow, that is so cool. I would have gone. No, that sounds awesome.
I've been asked time and again to do it again. I just need a little bit more support doing it. I might, hopefully tie in with Universal or something to do it right, do it big, so we have big money promotion.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's so cool. That band idea I love that. That's so neat. You did not do what?
At our Enchantment Under the Sea dance, we played all the tunes from the films.
That's so cool. I would faint. I love Back to the Future so much that when I met someone that was acting as Christopher Lloyd at Universal, I got nervous because I was like, hey,
nice.
Like, I love that movie so much. And you did not have any direct scenes with Christopher Lloyd, did you?
I did not. I have a nice snap of him when I went down to watch some of the hoverboard chase scene. I wanted to meet him. I told Mike Mills, I'm such a big fan of Chris from Taxi and from Buckaroo Banzai, his work in general. So Mike said, just, we're going to shoot next week, Hill Valley 2015 exteriors, come on down to the set. So I came down at about 3 a.m. and hung out in the makeup trailer. And Chris came in about 3:30 or 4 o'clock, and Mike introduced us. And I told Chris what a big fan I was. He said, thank you.
That's pretty good.
He's very quiet. He's very quiet. And I stood there and, kind of stared and nodded for a few minutes. And I got, tongue-tied and intimidated. And I said, okay, see ya, have a great shoot. And went home, went to bed. So, of course, that was while we were shooting. Flash forward to about 2008 or 9, theater in Beverly Hills screened the trilogy of the Back to the Future films and had Claudia and Chris and I there as guests for Q&A. And Claudia didn't get there until later. She was at another screening. So they put Chris and I up in the projectionist's booth for about 45 minutes. And it was in there that we finally had a nice chat. And he kind of opened up, and we've done Film and Comic-Con and various other shows, DeLorean conventions, DeLorean owner conventions. And Chris has become a friend. I've learned that he likes exotic plants. So every time I see him, I try to either encourage him to let me bring him something. I give him a rare B-52 bomber Venus flytrap one year, and he was very, very thrilled to receive it because it's a rare one, a red Venus flytrap. Next time I saw him a year or so later in London, I said, how's that B-52 bomber going? He said, I killed it.
Oh no.
I'm never home. I can't water it. So I was like, So it's really lovely to be friends with many of these great talents. James Tolkien and I, Professor Strickland, Principal Strickland, and Sheriff Buford, whatever his character's name was. Anyway, we were guests at one of the London shows, and he and I were in the green room having a coffee break, and the Star Trek star was Leonard Nimoy. And Leonard sauntered in around midday, and we happened to be in there, and Leonard looked around and he saw James, and he came right over to our table and sat down with us. Apparently, James and Leonard had done a stage show together that was directed by Otto Preminger. And for the next 20 minutes or half an hour, I listened to James and Leonard Nimoy tell stories and do their impressions of Otto Preminger, and that was just delightful. It was really fun.
So cool.
James,
I would have a heart attack.
James Tolkien is a dream. He's such a wonderful human and such a great talent. And the stories he's told of working with Sidney Lumet and various other wonderful shoots that he's been on is just delightful. I hope you get to meet him.
Yeah, me too. So you telling me all this stuff, like you've done a lot. You got to meet all these people. You're in my favorite movie and all these other cool things. Like, what kind of advice do you have? Like, I'm a relatively newer actor, and a lot of people that watch this are also actors. What type of advice do you have for people that are kind of new?
Study with me.
Nope. Yeah.
I teach virtually. I have a couple students that I'm currently coaching via Zoom. I'll record their monologues or scene work and then stop the meeting, download it, and then start the Zoom up again, and we'll watch it together, and I'll coach. I have a fantastic cold reading technique. I have exercises from everyone from Meisner to the Strasbergian relaxation technique to the repetition and fantasy charging to Michael Chekhov's character gestures work. Some viewpoints. I try to throw bits of lots of different techniques so students get an idea of what works for them, so they can continue working in those techniques that they find are good for them. But the bottom line, whether you study with me or not, is just that, is you need to study. You need to hone your craft, because it is a craft. You're an artist. But unlike other arts, you're both the painter and the paintbrush. So your tool, your body, your voice, your mind, all has to be in tune and ready to work. And so you have to have a great warm-up. You have to know your craft. You have to know how to listen, how to layer a character onto you to mesh. You need to know truth. The camera can't lie. So you need to be able to be truthful and develop your relationship with the lens. I gave that note to Guy Fieri before he got his first TV show. I've studied with a lot of great acting gurus, and I've been teaching for a lot of years now, and I've had a lot of students and or talents that I've mentored become very successful. I'm happy to say.
Wow, awesome. That's great. So I have one more question. Do you think that time travel will ever be possible?
It's hard to say. I've heard concepts that all time exists simultaneously, and that because of dimensions and such, we're not aware of all time happening simultaneously, but we're in this one particular one. I don't know. There are billions and billions of, I'm doing my Carl Sagan now,
Good.
stars and planets and possibilities out there. I imagine that in some ways, in some dimensions, there's time travel happening as we speak. I wrote a concept for a film that I call UFO, about a ship that was sort of saucer-like and spun using centrifugal force and magnets to spin so much, and that it uses that system to propel itself, and it goes so fast beyond what the guys in the right stuff going the speed of sound. This was going to go the speed of light. Once it did that, it transcended all time and appears in all time at the same time, and thus explains why you see UFOs.
I love that. I love that kind of stuff. I think that's cool.
You want to help me write the script? You're welcome.
Let's do it.
Don't write myself some parts. That's another thing that I would advise actors is write your own part. You know yourself best. If you can either work with a writer or write something yourself as a vehicle that you can produce. If with the advent of affordable equipment and so many filmmakers right and left, you can put together a production team and shoot your own short or feature even, because that's your best calling card if you wanted to break into Hollywood, is come in with your own product.
That is so funny you said that, because at the beginning of the pandemic, I started making a feature-length movie 1 minute at a time every week, and I'm every character, and it's all shot on a green screen in my house, and now I've passed 85 minutes and I'm almost done with it, and I did everything. Wow. Completely everything. Yeah, I would love to show you that sometime.
Yeah, but keep me in mind.
It's called Popsicle World. I'm basically the character of myself, but we're going through different dimensions, and I meet all these creatures like goblins and magic toast and all this kind of stuff, but it's pretty crazy.
Well, bring on the magic toast.
You got it. But
thank you, sir.
Thank you very, very much for doing this. I really appreciate it, and it's amazing to get to talk to somebody for my favorite movie of all time. So thank you very much.
Thanks for having me on, MC, and have fun in the new paradigm of, oh my God, what's the new one? Florana? After Omicron, Florana now is on the horizon. New version of the plague. Yeah, everyone stay safe, stay compassionate. JeffreyWeissman.com. You can email me if you want a signed picture. I have some fantastic photos, or I have Pizza Hut foils.
Ooh.
Action figures. And I can also be reached that way in case you want an acting lesson. Or follow me on Twitter. It's at JEF Weissman, WEISSMAN. On Instagram, it's at Jeffrey J. Weissman. And on Facebook, my fan page is at Jeffrey Weissman Actor.
Sweet. Wow. Well, thank Thank you, buddy. I'm going to tag all that and make sure everybody can find it. But thank you, sir. I appreciate you.
Sure, I'll see you in the future.
And that's about it, party people. Thank y'all so much for watching. Make sure to check out Jeff's website. He has a bunch of cool stuff on there. You can buy some stuff. Hit him up. Also, check out a word from our sponsors. If you like the shirt that I'm wearing, make sure to go to getonboardman.com and order a shirt. They have all kinds of amazing wearable art. Every shirt is absolutely incredible. 2 more things. Make sure to follow the Toy Stash on Instagram. They specialize in vintage toys. So if there was any toy you had when you were little and you can't find it, they probably have a brand new version of it that you can get. So make sure to follow them. And make sure to follow Designs by Galarza. They made that cool custom popsicle hat that I was wearing a second ago. And they can make you your own custom merchandise, so make sure to hit them up. Also, shout out to my shoe sponsor, Solsfing. They make amazing future sneakers that are just bananas. Please follow them on Instagram. You will love their selection. Also, if you like the hat I was wearing in this episode, it was given to me by the Old Hat Shop on Instagram. Hit them up. They specialize in vintage hats. You can have a brand new hat from the 90s. And if you're thinking, hey, I want those sunglasses, and I want the sunglasses you wear in your movie Popsicle World, make sure to hit up Filthy Shades. Also, if you live on the Gulf Coast and need help with your pool or hot tub, hit up Emerald Coast Pools. They can fix everything and get you swimming again before you can say Baba Booey.